As always, we begin this video right where we left off in the previous, and if you're having a hard time following or you, you start in the middle here of the series, you can just do a search for beginner day trading introduction and do a filter by date. You should end up being able to find this and just go to videos and maybe sort from oldest to newest and just follow along. I started a video or so ago trying to talk about different stock trading trends that I've seen. I covered a very instantaneous, almost downward spike, and how that had to do with stop loss hunting. Then I talked about the gap and filling the gap, and so now I want to talk about the breakout. But I also want to start, since we really haven't talked about how to trade, how to buy, and how to sell. Like, what's the technical stuff? Like, how do you do this? How are you successful with this? So I've been focusing a lot on let's learn basic terms, basic things, tools. Let's recognize some things like patterns. With this one, I want to go ahead and introduce a little bit more of the usage of support and resistance, since we've already covered that. So I want to use that here. Before we cover the breakout, let's recall that we should know this. If we watched the previous video, we know about the gap and then the panic selling or whatever, profit taking, and then filling in the gap. So what I'm going to cover is like the next part of this. So here we have this similar graph. There's our price, vertical bar, our time, horizontal line. And I added something new over here to the right. This is volume in purple. So this lower part here will graph volume. So I set up the price versus time graph, and this is hypothetical, right? This is something that I've seen. There we have the gap and the panic selling and profit taking. But then there's the reevaluation, and people are starting to get back into position with the stock and buying and bidding up the price and so forth. If we wanted to look at price versus volume, this is what I've seen. Okay, it can vary obviously, but this is what I've seen. So first, not too much volume, but then the volume starts increasing and it starts driving up the price, and then it really increases, drives up the price. Then there's the opposite ways, right? People are dumping, selling, or profit taking, sorry. The volume stays high during that drop, then eventually it drops. And then people start reevaluating and deciding, okay, let me get back in the stock, and the price is going up, and so is the volume. Probably not as high as during the up and down of the gap or the spike. And then eventually the volume starts to drop, and I'll get into why. Let's do a little bit more correlating between price and volume. So first, we have, kind of a steady ho-hum volume and ho-hum price. Then the volume starts going up, which starts to drive the price up. And eventually we reach, certain level of volume. And then even though the prices start to go down, the volume is still high because people are now selling. And then eventually that dies down. And then we go on, we're reevaluating, and this is the next. So the volume is going up, price driving the price up. So now here's the key. If you'll notice, the price is approaching the previous line, the previous resistance level. And I tell you, I've seen this so many times. The volume starts going down. People are like, they're iffy. They think they want to get into the stock. They do get into the stock, but they're actually buying less. The sellers are only selling less because the buyers, when they're bidding less shares of stock. And it's like no one wants to go. They're scared. That's essentially it for some period of time. Let's take a look. I said we would use support, and we would start using resistance support lines and trend lines. So let's take a look at that. So the most basic level of support is this horizontal line, which is rather easy. But we talked about that before this video that, well, actually, this is a new level of support. And you can go further and say, well, no, the support is actually increasing over time. And finally, we have this. So I brought this up before, way back. What do you think is going to happen here with this as the level of support reaches the level or approaches the level of resistance? I've seen several things happen here, but one of the things that has happened a lot is the price goes along around and inching ever closer and closer to the resistance line and actually crosses above it, falls back, crosses above, falls back, and then a breakout. This is the breakout. So the price per share broke out of that resistance line. All right, we are going to stop right here, but I hope that you can start to see that if you start drawing for yourself support and resistance lines, you start getting an idea of where you might want to place some buy orders and sell orders and where you could possibly make some money in case of a breakout. Without actually giving you any advice at the moment, but at least I wanted to identify the breakout and use some of our little rudimentary tools that we learned so far. See you in the next video.